All right, hello everybody. We're glad that you're able to join us. So basically our intention is to go over the two programs in computational biology, two master's programs in computational biology. And so I'm the co-director of the MS in Automated Science program. And then DJ is the assistant director for the MS in Comp Bio program. And we're going to split the presentation, but I thought first it would be useful to introduce you to some of the other members of the team here, and I will let them introduce themselves, I guess in order here. So Joel.
Good morning, I'm Joel McManus. I'm an associate professor of biological sciences, and I have an appointment with computational biology as well. I'm a co-director of the MSCB program. So I'm very excited to welcome you all to the open house and look forward to answering questions you might have as you learn about our program.
Okay, good morning, everyone. So my name is Min Xu. I'm assistant professor at the computational biology department, and I'm also co-directing with our MSCB program with Professor McManus. And yeah, so if you have any questions, especially regarding to this computational aspect, you're welcome to talk to me.
Yeah, hello everyone. So my name is Jose Lugo Martinez. I'm an assistant professor here in the Comp Bio department in the School of Computer Science. And along with Josh, I'm the co-director of the MSAS program.
Hi, my name is Janet. I work as the program coordinator for both of the master programs. And I work on the computational biology side with all of the students.
Good morning. My name is Ana Michelli. I'm the Director of Graduate Operations on the biology side and a colleague of Janet's, and we work very, very closely together, making sure that administratively and operationally that you are to be where you're supposed to be. Thanks.
All right, great, thank you. So I'm going to go over basically an overview of the two programs, and then we'll get into the specifics of the curriculum, and then you're welcome to ask whatever questions you have at the end. And also, if you want to drop them in the chat too, we can, as you think of them, we'll answer them. Okay, so first of all, what is computational biology? So there are a lot of important problems that we solve under the context of computational biology, but this is kind of a quick introduction to one of them. And so the problem is, what if you want to determine the sequence of the genome of some organism? So the way you can accomplish this is you start out by generating multiple copies of the genome. And then for reasons that involve the physical technology for actually generating sequences, we have to shatter the genome into what are called reads. And so these reads are basically a sequence of A, C's, T's, and G's that are, they can range from 70 or so letters long, all the way up to a few thousand. But in the context of the genome, these are very, very small pieces. And so then in order to determine what the genome was, we need to basically assemble that genome by looking at the overlap of reads. This is actually just a really complicated problem, and there's no hope of someone doing this manually. So it requires computational strategies for solving this problem. And this kind of work was essential for building the first human genome. And then there are related problems that are more complex. So let's say you're looking at an environment and you want to know what critters are present in this environment. And so maybe you take a water sample. So this is a picture that we have of some of our students who went out on a field trip and they collected water samples and they filtered those water samples, and what they had in the filter was a whole bunch of organic material, and they wanted to identify what was in it. And so the way you do that is you extract all the DNA from that, and now this collection or this sample of DNA contains many different genomes from different organisms. And so we take the same strategy of chopping these genomes into many different reads, and then we reconstruct parts of these genomes to try to figure out what critters are present in these water samples, for example. We included this bottom picture. So it's a picture of the pre-college program, which is a set of high school students that we work with during the summer. One opportunity that you could have if you join one of our MS programs is you could help to TA for that. And it's a ton of fun over the summer, and it's a good experience if you're potentially interested in teaching, or if you want to stay around and do research over the summer, this would be an additional experience that would be available to you. And then I'm sure you have all heard about CRISPR. So when it comes to CRISPR, we have the ability to edit genes. And there are lots of concerns here that are computational in nature. So if we want to be able to basically predict what the effect of these changes are going to be, we can use computational tools for doing that. If you want to look at individual cell types, so there are strategies for sequencing nucleic acids from individual cells, and then based on what you find in those individual cells, you can basically group the cells into cell types. And so this plot on the left is showing a version of that sort of analysis. And we have a big project here at CMU called HubMap, which is basically trying to build a 3D cellular map of the body. And because of the complexity of these data sets, again, computational tools are essential for making this possible. Furthermore, you would consider analyzing medical images as a computational biology problem. And by and large, images are one of the largest sources of data available nowadays in terms of medical data. And so basically what we can do is we can use various computational strategies like deep learning, for example, to try to basically help doctors diagnose what they're seeing in pictures, and even perhaps be more accurate than clinicians at some points for different problems. And then kind of hot take about biology. Nowadays, I think you can make the case that much of the substantial research that you hear about in press coming out of biology labs has some major computational components. So if you were to look at, say, a lot of major Nature papers or science papers covering biological topics, you're going to find a large author list, and an important component of those papers is going to be computational. And so our view is that basically biology is a information science and requires computation going forward. To give you a little bit of background on the current thinking that we have, I want to give you some history of biological research and kind of the progression over the last, say, 100 years. So early on, biology research you could characterize as being primarily descriptive. And what I mean by that is biologists were measuring leaves and counting trees and looking at the toes on box turtles or whatever. And so they were describing what they were seeing in nature. And this turned to what you would call a mechanistic model, where people were trying to understand the rules that govern biological systems. So one rule that was come up with was the central dogma, which is basically where you're going from sequence in DNA to an actual protein within a cell. And this was considered to be a rule that is consistent across all of biological systems. And what we found was that there are certainly exceptions. So reverse transcriptase is an enzyme that allows you to convert from RNA to cDNA. And the more people tried to build these rules, the more they found that there were exceptions, to the point where the exceptions were almost the rule. And so nowadays, a lot of people are focused on what's called systems biology, which is that we are looking at the performance of systems and trying to build models to predict how these systems will react under certain conditions. And so you end up with enormous data sets and very complicated predictive models to try to understand what these systems are doing. And in order to understand these complex systems, one strategy is to generate big data. So that might mean testing many compounds on a specific system, or testing lots of variations within a system. And then based on those data, you learn a predictive model, and then you might validate that model. So one strategy for validation would be to use your model to make predictions and then actually test your high confidence predictions in the lab. But unfortunately, it's really impossible to prove or validate an empirical model. And so one of the strategies that we focus on teaching our students is what's called active machine learning. And the idea behind active machine learning is to basically drive an experimental process based on the predictive model you're building, with an aim towards making that model as accurate as possible. And so this can be applied to really complex problems, and it's actually most useful for large and complex experimental spaces, such as those found in the kinds of systems biology problems that we try to tackle. So, for example, if you're trying to predict the effects of drugs or compounds within a patient, for example, so there's a lot of disease heterogeneity. So, for example, diabetes and cancer, there are lots of different ways that can manifest itself in a patient, and that changes the way the patient responds to certain drugs. And so, we need personalized medicine strategies to help us to predict what these effects are. And so using active machine learning strategies can help to do that. And one of the ways this is really loud. Let's see if I can mute this. One of the ways that you can actually make these closed loop experimental processes work is by using robotics to run experiments. So you can execute a series of experiments using lab automation. And on the right-hand side, we're showing what's called a liquid handling robot, which basically is a robotic micropipette. So if you're familiar with pipetting in a biolab, this is a robotic version of that. And then you take the data you generate using a robot, and then you build your predictive model using machine learning for comp bio tasks. And then you run an active learning process or an AI-based selection for what experiments you're going to run next, and then feed that back to your robot and tell the robot, hey, run these experiments. And in the end, you end up building more accurate predictive models with less experimentation than if you were to take a brute force strategy. Yeah. All right. So that's kind of an overview of the program, and then we have the philosophy behind the program. So we have some information about the program and Pittsburgh. So first of all, I want to mention that we have fellowships available for underrepresented students, and you're welcome to apply for those. We also have exceptional faculty. So CMU is #1 in comp bio in the world, according to CS rankings. And so you'd have an opportunity to work with great people here. We also love to connect our students to opportunities. So in both MSCB and MSAS, we have a focus on getting students in contact with industry partners and helping them get jobs through different means that we'll talk about in a little bit. We also love to invite our alums back to meet with our students. And this is great for the students to see that our alums go out and do awesome things, which they do. But also this is a chance for our alums to meet our current students, and often this yields jobs for our students. We have a careers website, and so this can help you look for jobs in computational biology, along with the multitude of other tools that are available to you, like LinkedIn and that sort of thing. And this can help you search by categories and locations for comp bio specific positions. And then if you still have concerns about any kind of computational biology careers, here are a couple people who know a thing or two about having successful careers. So Bill Gates basically said that if he were to start over now, he would be interested in bioscience and AI, which are two of the fundamental elements of our computational biology programs. And then Francis Collins, who was the NIH director, said if he was in college right now, he would be moving towards being a computational biologist. And then people always ask about the financial side of computational biology careers. So if you are coming out of a bio program here at CMU, this is basically what you can expect, or bio undergrad program at CMU. This is what you can expect for your salary. So an average salary of approximately $52,000, and that's from 2017 to 2020. And then looking at our recent data for the MS students coming out of Comp Bio, either the automated science program or the computational biology program, the average salary is almost double that. And so from an investment perspective, this can yield a great increase in your salary for the 2 years that you spend with us. And so with that, I will turn it over to DJ to talk about the curriculum.
Yeah, great. Thanks, Josh. And just as Josh said, if questions come up, you can just post them in the chat during the time that we're here. If we see those, we'll go ahead and respond to those as we go between slides, but then we'll have plenty of time later for questions as well. So I'm going to tell you about the curricula for our two programs, and there's some overlap and also some differences. Let's see, there's actually a question. I have 16 years of education in bioinformatics. Can I do my master's program in bioinformatics? There are bioinformatics master's programs available. Carnegie Mellon does not have a master's in bioinformatics under that name. There are a couple of other programs that have bioinformatics as a part of it. And so both of our programs that we're talking about here today include bioinformatics as one of many skills that you will learn. But if you want to know about other programs at CMU outside of these two, I guess we put those in the first slide, but I'll also send my email, and Josh can put his as well in the chat. So there are other programs, and we can refer you to the websites for those other programs. We do not have one that's called MS in bioinformatics as such, but there are some that have like bioinformatics as a component as well. These are bioinformatics plus AI plus image analysis and many other skills like Josh kind of overviewed a moment ago. Yeah, great question. Okay, so yeah, can you go ahead to the next one, Josh, here, and we'll take a look at the curriculum. So in the programs, they're both 4-semester programs, and there's a lot of overlap. So everybody in each program will take, in the middle here, programming for scientists, a cell and molecular biology class, an essential math and statistics course, and also a professional issues course together. And then in addition to that, students in the Masters of Computational Biology typically take algorithms and advanced data structures in their first semester, although a few do wait till the second semester as well and maybe take a different elective in the first. I guess, Josh, do you want to just, since you teach the lab methods in automated biology, do you want to mention briefly what that is?
So basically the automation lab is showing here in this picture. I've also got it in my background. Basically, it's currently the only educationally oriented robotic lab anywhere. And it has a slightly different focus than other labs that are available. So the purpose of this is to teach students how to generate closed loop experimental protocols. So right in the middle here, there's a robotic arm that will move plates between the different devices. So we have inside this enclosure, we have a microplate reader, we have a confocal microscope, a liquid handling robot, an automated incubator, and a couple qPCR machines, and then a nucleic acid extraction system. So all of those things together give us, in this automated facility, basically the ability to do most of what you would do in a standard cell bio or molecular biology lab, with a couple gaps that we could talk about if you wanted. But But basically, it's the only experience like this available anywhere.
Yeah, and then so in the second semester, students in both programs will continue on taking machine learning for scientists and automation of biological research, which is sort of a more deep theoretical dive into some of the things that are also being put into practice for students in the MS and Automated Science Lab in their lab methods in automated biology, which in the second semester, the students in automated science over on the right there continue on with that lab course into their second semester and continue on with some professional issues development that is more particular to automated science. Meanwhile, students in the computational biology program in blue over there on the left are taking a quantitative genetics course, and most students take a computational genomics course as well. Although this is, I should say, just like one example out of a few different ways to orient and organize your plan. And there are many options for when and how you take a lot of these courses as well. Actually, between semesters, so semester 3 is coming up, but real quick note, just between semester 2 and 3, you do have the option to do a summer internship. And we have contacts at companies who we can help put you in touch with. We do not have guaranteed internships, but we do help support students. A lot of the professional development is to help you with resumes and interviews to prepare for that, or to do research, or students sometimes just take their summer as an opportunity to relax after a very intense first year. So both of these programs are 4-semester programs. In the first semester of the second year, so the third semester overall, students will be taking computational electives. Students in the computational biology program, so the blue side on the left, are taking biology electives, sometimes additional electives from other departments, and then also taking biological modeling and simulation course. The students in the automated science program, on the other hand, are taking computational biology electives, bioinformatics, and then also they're beginning their capstone. Josh, did you want to talk about the capstone as well right now?
Sure. So the capstone project is basically, we go out to look for industry partners and ask them to propose projects for our students to work on with them. And so what that means is that the students actually have an opportunity in the second year to work on a real project that's relevant to the needs of some company. And so they get experience working on these, and that also can lead to jobs too. I mean, ultimately, the best possible interview you can have for potential employer is to work with them. And this so far seems to be a good experience for our students. And we don't have necessarily a consistent set of sponsors from year to year. It tends to change, but we've had sponsors from Ginkgo Bioworks, Emerald Cloud Lab, Thermo Fisher, Asimov, and among others. And so it's usually a pretty exciting time.
Yeah. And actually, so there was a question in the chat that I just saw from a couple minutes ago. Somebody said that they're an electric engineer from Peru with experience in industrial machines and instrumentation, and they wanted to enter this master's program. And so in terms of the background that our students have, there's a wide range of different backgrounds and a wide range of different expertise coming in. Some of those first semester classes are designed to help students to develop the skills that they need to do the future coursework, such as programming and applied cell molecular bio, math and statistics, and so on. In terms of students who apply to our program, we have a very wide range of educational backgrounds for students who apply. Some students have a biology background, some students have a purely computational background, and some students have engineering. Other students might have a mix of biology and computation from their college backgrounds, or work backgrounds as well. So sometimes you might have, like for example, we had a student who had a major in political science, but then worked for a few years at a biotech company and was learning computational biology on the job, and then came to us wanting more of a formal education in computational biology. So your undergraduate major does not define whether or not you are eligible to apply to our program. Instead, we look for that you have some quantitative skill and some success in quantitative courses, like calculus, physics, statistics. If you've taken some programming classes, that's great. It's not a necessary prerequisite. If you don't have any biology coursework, that is also fine. But we do want to make sure that students coming in are a good fit for our program and are very interested in doing biology related work. And so you would want to communicate in terms of experiences that you've had, and also reasons and goals and next steps that you foresee after you finish our program, the reasons why you think this is a good fit for you. And that's a big aspect of what we consider. Yeah, I hope that is that similar for the MSAS program, Josh? Do you want to add anything about that?
So the one thing I would add is that we, like, both programs take in a variety of backgrounds, and sometimes people are very, very strong in the computational side or very strong on the biological side, and the curriculum isn't rigid in the first year in the sense that you have to take that set of courses. So if you're coming in and you've done a ton of programming before, you can test out of the programming course and skip on to an elective or some other course that we'll discuss with you on the spot. And the same thing for the math and stats and the bio course. You can get out of all of those if you have sufficient background, and then they get filled with electives.
Right. And then, yeah, so students who maybe only have a dabbling of each or have a different degree might end up taking all the foundation courses, and that's exactly what they're there for. So, yeah.
I'd say on average, half of our students take the courses as we've defined here, and then probably half of them skip one or more and get electives. And we're flexible.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, so the next slide I think is the fourth semester. And so in that, students will continue in both programs doing computational biology electives. In the MS in computational biology program, there are additional biology electives that you are expected to take. That program is actually interdisciplinary between the computational biology department and the biology department. And we want to make sure that students in that program have a breadth of biology knowledge. MS and automated science students, on the other hand, are going to focus a little bit more on the artificial intelligence, which they're developing through these capstone projects in the automation lab. That is an important part of the comp bio curriculum and a lot of the electives there as well. But the difference being that MSAS students don't have this requirement to take additional biology electives and instead do the capstone project as the sort of main difference that Josh described a moment ago. Couple questions come up here. So with respect to in regards, I wanted to know about the admissions in MS computational biology. Is it possible to get an acceptance letter from the university? I think we have a slide coming up a little bit about the admissions process, but certainly anyone who applies could be admitted. We evaluate students based on academic background. Personal statement gives us a good indication of whether somebody is really excited and interested to do what we offer and to engage in the automated science and or computational biology that we have here. We also have some language requirements if you're not an English, if you're not a native English speaker, which we can I can refer people to websites if you want to see exactly what the requirements are for that. And then we also look at letters of recommendation and your resume and personal background and skills and so on. So we take a very holistic look at the applications, and it's not going to be defined by any one number that you may have. And so I guess it is certainly possible anybody who applies could possibly get in a letter. We do have more applicants every year than we are able to admit. And so we look for applicants based on a number of different criteria. And like I said, it's sort of all over evaluation of their application. I think that's similar for MSAS, right, Josh?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. And then to build on the education background for students with strong biology background, what would you recommend to make the transition to programming easier? Are there any online courses you can take to prepare? So we don't have any direct recommendations for specific online courses. There are many options. One of the members of the Comp Bio department, Philip Campo, has an online program in Coursera that is related to programming, and I think a little bit of computational biology and bioinformatics as well. But just because he's affiliated with us doesn't mean that that's any better at preparing you, or that we're going to look any more favorably on somebody who did his class versus any other of the many different courses. Ultimately, one thing to keep in mind is that you don't need to have any particular programming background at all in order to be successful in these programs. The intro programming course is designed to be accessible to students without any programming background. There are a couple things to keep in mind with that. One is that there is a little bit of preparatory work to do over the summer to help get you ready for that course, because it is a very fast-paced course, and we want to make sure that everybody is ready to succeed in it, even if you don't come in with any programming background. If you don't have any programming background, but have shown that you have done well in your other quantitative courses like calculus, statistics, physics, and other things that you might have taken, then that can help as well. And then also, if for some reason you haven't done very well, or it's been a while since you've taken quantitative courses, we don't require a GRE, but you may submit one. And generally, I advise students that if you feel that your grades show your skills already, there's not any reason to take a GRE to try and demonstrate those. But if you feel that you have better quantitative skills than your transcript might reflect, then a GRE is a second opportunity for you to do well and demonstrate, especially on the quantitative components of the GRE, that you are prepared for a program. And then there's another question: is it essential to have publications to get admission to MS Comp Bio? No, definitely not. We don't. If you have publications, that is a nice thing to have. But our programs, both of them, are coursework based. Research is an option in both programs, and if you want to do research or you want to do a PhD, then publications are very valuable for that, for getting into a PhD program. While you are here, you can do research, and many of our students also do research that is maybe not having a publication by the time they're done, but they are on track to be a co-author for a publication that is forthcoming. That can be helpful for a future PhD career, but because PhDs are research-based and they're going to evaluate you in large part on research ability. Our MS programs are course-based with a research option. And so a publication is certainly not going to hurt, but it doesn't make a huge difference in terms of applications generally. So, yeah. What kind of positions can we take if we're interested specifically in comp bio and healthcare? I guess since I'm already talking, I'll keep talking, but Josh can also mention a little bit too. I mean, there are a lot of different things that I've seen students do. I've seen students go into personalized medicine companies, diagnostics companies, where they might be contracting with hospitals to profile tumor samples and see what genetic and epigenetic changes might be present, so that some personalized treatments can be done, as well as healthcare research, doing clinical research and other things along those lines, or pharmaceutical design. Josh, are there what kinds of careers have the students gone into for you?
From a healthcare perspective, the most relevant automated science sort of career could be in helping to be an engineer in a testing facility. But I think the way I would think about that is, so the way the programs are set up, the first year is basically giving you all this background information that you need to be successful, and then the electives are designed basically to give you experience working on different types of data. So for example, we have a modeling and simulation course. And so that's how do you understand and how do you design simulations for a certain task. So if you can apply simulations within healthcare, then that would be a good way of making that connection. Or if you're interested in imaging, which would have obvious healthcare applications, like you could take the imaging course as an elective. And so it's really, you kind of set what your electives are going to be, and the way those choices are made help to determine how you could fit in within healthcare.
I see a lot of other good questions here. Somebody else asked, does MSCB have opportunities similar to capstone? Not really. The MSCB doesn't have this sort of formal capstone arrangement with companies. The things that MSCB does have are optional research and optional summer internships, which also MSAS has. But the MSCB has more in-depth coursework in the second year, and that biology coursework that is required to give you that breadth in biology is sort of in at the same time that the MSAS students would be doing their capstone. How different is it from quantitative biology and bioinformatics? So that program is a 3-semester as opposed to 4-semester program. Actually, there's also a 2-semester option. And so there are several differences, but one main difference is that algorithms and data structures and also machine learning are not integrated into that quantitative biology and bioinformatics program. It's more of a practical education in bioinformatics that's a shorter time without that machine learning depth and applied machine learning in a lot of the electives that like you would get in both of these programs. My research area is computer-aided drug design. I have research on plants to identify compounds, cholesterol, blood pressure, heart attack. Can we consider as an applicant? I mean, we would be very happy to consider it. That sounds like a great background for our program. And so, yeah, we'd be very happy to have. So, yeah. And so that sounds like a great background, definitely. Okay, so let's see. Let's go ahead. Student life at CMU. Actually, there's a question about internships. We'll get back to the internships in just a second, but I do want to kind of quickly touch on the aspects of student life at CMU. So can you go ahead, Josh? To the next slide. There we go. Yeah, so Pittsburgh is now that I've been here for 10 years, I've loved living here all the time I've been here. It's a great city. There's a lot of there are free buses available to students. There are a lot of great opportunities culturally and around in the area to get out and enjoy being here. Pittsburgh does have a reputation from many decades past when it was a big industrial town, but now it is really revitalized into a technology hub. There's growing biotech. And a lot of other opportunities here to enjoy the city. Can you go ahead to the next one here? There's also museums. This is from a museum that's just a couple blocks from the university, the Pittsburgh Museum of Art, and it's many great places, also with free access for students. And then there's also a great aspect of sports teams. There's a soccer, what many of you might call football team here, as well as a baseball team and a really big American football team and hockey team as well. So a lot of opportunities to get out and enjoy the city. We take some of our students, sometimes we have events like the Graduate Student Association has events taking students out to the baseball games. You want to go ahead to the next one here. And then also Carnegie Mellon is in a physically green as well as very environmentally sustainable part of the city. And the city itself has made a big effort over the last 10 years to develop and get ahead of a lot of benchmark and milestones set for sustainability. Yeah, you want to go ahead here? And so there is the the computational biology department is in the Gates Hillman Center. It's a great area. It's got a few spaces that are sort of like shared spaces, as well as a really excellent student office space, shared office space for students in the MS Comp Bio and MSAS program, which is a great place. It's always got students in there. There's snacks. Students are working together on projects, and it's a really great opportunity for you to work together on your projects and your opportunities. And we have a lot of social events too. So there was a little bit of a pause for these for the last couple of years and things moved online, but now we're returning back to having social opportunities and times. So this is Kennywood. There's in October, the GSA has an opportunity for students to all go late at night for Halloween, which is a fun sort of holiday in the US. And if you're coming from a part of the world without snow, we do get snow here. In fact, there's even a little bit of snow that just fell. So that is something to be aware of, but it is also something that we even a lot of the students here had never seen snow before they went snowboarding, snow tubing. And this is something that is a great way to enjoy what might be an otherwise something that you might not be used to. Go ahead and embrace and take advantage of enjoy it. And so also even during the COVID pandemic, we found a lot of opportunities for ourselves to get together and still enjoy each other's company, and that continues as well now. And then the office space that I already mentioned, it's a great space for students where they get together and work together and snack and just relax and enjoy their time. So let's go ahead here. Okay, so application process. I know there were a couple questions. Let me just kind of quickly go through some of the questions here, and then we'll go through the application. So are the internships students' personal responsibility, or do faculty help? We have a few contacts that we can help you get in touch with, but ultimately you will be applying to internships. We're not going to set that up. So biochemistry background, no programming is, so it is fine to come with no programming. There will be some summer work to do to help prepare you, but there are several students in our program now who are here without having had programming before they come. There are research opportunity and TA opportunities, typically in the second year, that you get paid for it, although in the second semester, a lot of students will do research for credit as one of their electives, and then research for pay in their second year. Alternatively, if you take a course and you develop a good relationship with the professor, you might have an opportunity to TA for that course in the following year as well. So in terms of external funding opportunities, I will, I'll look for a link in a moment here where we have some links for that. So I'll try and find that, but let me maybe get through the application quickly since we're a little short on time. In terms of the application process, Josh, can you go ahead to the next slide? So the things that we look for, we want you to see that you have quantitative experience and scientific experience. The quantitative experience does not need to be programming. The scientific experience does not need to be biology. But we do want to see that you have some background in that, in both of those. Really important, we want to see that you're interested in biology. We have students who maybe even have had an undergraduate degree in biology with a minor in CS. And if their application talks about their goals of doing research in machine learning that has nothing to do with biology and machine learning and biology, that student probably won't be admitted to our program, even if their background is a good fit. So we do really want to see that you're interested in what we're doing. The minimum TOEFL score is 100. There are some sort of caveats to that if you've been in the US for a period of time doing your undergrad that we can discuss as well. Things that are additional pluses but are not required for admission would be exposure to computational biology, and then courses particularly in programming or algorithms can be helpful but are not essential. Yeah, I think there's some discussion going on in the chat, but we'll kind of catch up with that. There's a single application for MSAS and MSCB. The applications are open. There's an early deadline coming up in a couple of weeks, but the final deadline is the 12th. Some programs, you can apply to other programs in the School of Computer Science as well at the same time on the same application. MS Comp Bio, we don't give any preference to anybody who applies by the 29th. As long as you get it in by the 12th, you're fine. I think it's the same. Yeah, same for MSAS. There are fee waiver processes available. If you're interested, you can email us and we can help you with that. And then there's some more detail at this website over here as well. Yeah, you can also apply as well to, for example, the PhD program at the same time, the computational biology PhD program, which shares same application. And so, yeah, so there's a lot of overlap. One thing I do want to mention that's sometimes a point of confusion, the MS Comp Bio program, your application comes through School of Computer Science, but when you arrive, you actually arrive in the Mellon College of Science. And that has, if you're looking up tuition costs, the tuition is pretty similar, but there's slight differences. And if you want to know exactly what the tuition is for MSCB students, it would be under Mellon College of Sciences. Yeah, small thing to keep in mind. You want to go ahead, Josh? Let's, is there another? Okay, there we go. Yeah. So, and then there's going to be a virtual open house in March. And then there are additional opportunities as well to meet us. Okay, so I think that's everything. Let's see. Josh, I feel like I've been talking a lot. Do you want to talk a little bit about the TA opportunities that are available and how that works?
Sure. So basically, if you're interested in TAing, do well in one of our courses or establish that you have enough background you can help. And our TAs are paid hourly based on how they help within the courses. And from my perspective, most students don't TA their first year, but some students do TA their second year. And then, like I said, there's TA opportunities for the pre-college program with the high school kids, which is tons of fun. And that's pretty much it. As far as RA, the students tend to start looking for labs to join for doing research in the second semester they're here, but some start up in the summer in between instead of doing an internship. It's kind of up to you. And there's a lot of flexibility in the labs you can choose. And yeah.
Oh, sorry.
As far as the IELTS, so we do accept those. And I believe there should be a table of equivalents across the different English testing services. We also accept Duolingo scores. They offer testing, and I don't know the numbers right off the top of my head for all of them, but we basically look for the same level across them, scaled based on their scoring scheme.
So if you are okay, so how long does it take for applications to get notified of their status? Usually in sometime between February and March. We work through the applications and we'll notify you in that time frame. Somebody said they were thinking of including an evaluated transcript. So that would be like a WES or something like that. That is not required. And unless your university does not provide an official English language transcript. So if your university only has transcripts written in a language other than English, then you will need to get that evaluated by an external firm. Otherwise, it's not. It doesn't really factor in. So applicants from an English language speaking country, this is the definition of English language speaking country is a little bit challenging because it is not so legally with U.S. immigration policy, it's not defined to be any country where English is a co-official language, but rather it's defined based on countries where a majority of individuals living in that country are native English speakers. I can find a list of such countries if you're interested. The ones off the top of my head are New Zealand, UK, Australia, US, and a few other smaller countries, Canada, with the exception of Quebec. And so, yeah, if you're not sure where you fall into with that, let me know. If you are a non-native speaker, but you have been doing but you have a undergraduate degree from a US institution or an institution in the UK, then you can talk with us and we can discuss if there's slightly different testing requirements. Is it mandatory to get an advisor? No, because it's not a research requirement. Our program is course-based. If you want to do research, which is an option, you will need a research advisor, but it is not mandatory to do. We don't have lab rotations. That is something that would be part of a PhD program because you would be spending many hours a week in a lab and then switching labs. But you can in your second semester do, I think like Josh said a few minutes ago, like 10 hours a week in a lab. And then if you are enjoying it a lot, maybe even continue on full-time over the summer, often credit for the first, for that second semester, and then potentially paid if there's funding for it in the spring. You don't need advisor. No, we don't need any sort of faculty mentor or faculty who says that they're going to sponsor you or anything like that. So about where students tend to live. So Anna, do you have that site somewhere? There's the Graduate Student Association has a list of places where students tend to live. And so Anna might be able to pull that up. So yeah, there's a link that goes into this and has like a survey of students. Is it common for people to do computational work for local hospitals while enrolled? Those are there are opportunities to do research at Pitt during the semester. And then there are, Pittsburgh Medical Center does have some internship and summer employment opportunities as well. Full-time employment during the academic year is not something that you would be able to do. And we switch to research-based after joining a course-based program. So
I'll
yeah, you want to
touch
say
on
that?
both of those a little bit more.
Yeah,
So the PhD Comp Bio program is a combined Pitt CMU program, and the result of that is that we have a really good relationship with University of Pittsburgh and UPMC, and so there are research opportunities with UPMC that are available to students through the Pitt faculty. And as far as the research-based masters, so MSAS has 2 tracks. We have a professional track, and then we have a research track. If you go the research track, your requirements are to take a couple semesters of research. And so that's the closest we have to a research-based master's. It's by credit, there's no thesis though.
MSCB is slightly different. We have an opportunity for research honors if you do multiple semesters. But yeah, neither of those are research-based masters in the sense that the majority of your time is going to be spent doing research. Most of those, I think, are like, you would be maybe 20 hours a week doing research and 30 hours a week doing coursework and homework and things that. Okay, Anna just put in the link for the GSA page. I think there's a sub page. Maybe she's still looking for the sub page about the housing information. I don't have the numbers right now off the top of my head on potential on admitted students. Josh, do you know? Somebody asked, what's the percentage of admitted students approximately?
I don't have that in front of me. Our class, the MSAS class, is approximately 15 students a year. And then what's the size for MSCB currently?
MSCB is like 35. And so, and we have a couple hundred applications. And then, so, yeah, so it's somewhere in the neighborhood of a third of students. It feels like about right for that are admitted, because then we admit more than we actually have coming. Yeah.
Think we a little bit more on funding. So we have students that are considered immediately for fellowships upon application. And then if you're a minority, we consider you further beyond that. And there are also students who come in with funding already in place through their own means, either through fellowships, through other organizations, scholarships, or their own.
Josh, do you have any suggestions on the statement of purpose and thoughts on what should go in that?
So the biggest thing there is to convince us that you care about biology and that you'll thrive in our program. And that's pretty much the story.
And actually, Joel and Jose and Min have been a little bit quiet because Josh and I tend to just talk a lot. But Joel, do you want to maybe just mention, there have been several questions about research, and then maybe Joel and Jose and Min can just sort of mention about research opportunities, maybe in your lab or in general?
Yeah, I could say a little bit. So first, I think it's important for students to understand that there are not really RA positions. I've seen some questions and comments about RA and TA positions. They're not RA positions in the sense that you would have your, a stipend and tuition or things like that covered as a master's student. That's not how the program works. There are plentiful opportunities for research for credit. So that's where you would research in a lab as part of a course that you actually get a grade for doing that. And that's generally falls within the 6 to 9 hours a semester type of situation. Usually students don't do that until their spring semester, their first year. There are some opportunities for research that's paid by the hour, and that's not for credit. And that's also something that some students will do while they're here, and that's usually hourly pay. I think on average is like $15 to $20 an hour. And again, it's in the 6 to 12 hours per week type of time frame. So if people are asking about that and thinking about support from research, that would be it. Most of the research projects are smaller in scale because the MSCB program in particular, and I think it's true for MSAS, it has a lot of coursework. So you're actually here to learn a lot in classes. It's not a research heavy master's, at least not in MSCB. We don't have like a research track. But students do a lot of research though, and I've had students as authors on publications. I have 3 master's students I'm working with right now. So that's not uncommon to do research. It's just not the focus of this particular master's.
Yeah, just in case from my perspective, right? So I do have a couple of master students in my lab right now, and some doing for credit. I have another one that I pay, sort of hourly. And so they have a cap depending on their visa status, if they're international students, etc. So there's a lot of factors involved, but most of the time students do research for credit, and they just need to find an advisor that is willing to take them and have a project for them.
Yeah, so from my perspective, basically, so if a master student aims at pursuing PhD after getting master's degree, then actually doing research and build publications will be very important. On the other hand, if the student aims to go to the industry, then certainly such kind of a research experience will be optional. So, and on the other hand, so provided the student can successfully complete their courses, then having experience in this kind of research, actually this kind of practical biological data analysis, projects, then certainly will increase their chance to also in the industry.
And to help you make that decision early on, so DJ and I meet with students regularly to help to chart out their course plan, and that includes planning for research experiences and kind of the trajectory that will take them towards their career. And we do our best to make sure that goes well.
That's a big part of what we do is just working with students throughout the whole time they're here to make sure that things are going well and helping with any challenges that come up. I'm putting a couple links in the chat because to answer some of the questions about funding, since there have been several, and I just rather than reading all the web pages, I'm just trying to make sure that everyone has access to that. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think. Oh, there's no interview in the admissions process. Okay, yeah, Josh answered that. Okay, cool. Yeah, great questions. What other questions do people have? If we missed any, please let us know. There was a lot going on in the chat there for a bit, so. Any projects related? Min, do you want to talk about? I think you might know about structural projects.
Yes, and yeah, so specifically at my lab, so we mainly focus on I mean, this kind of image analysis projects, and actually, so this image are a very specific type of image. It's called cellular cryo-electron tomography. So basically, it is used to study this structural biology, right? In situ structural biology. So it's a very powerful tool to solve these native structures of these macromolecular complexes. Yeah, so and of course, this research is also extended to a general biomedical image analysis, and they are highly interconnected. So, yeah.
Then somebody asked about optional session or maybe optional section in the statement of purpose. I don't know what that's in reference to, actually. You can include a resume along with your statement of purpose, and that's typically all I see students include. And then separately would be test scores, transcripts, and so on, like TOEFL scores and whatnot. If there's something else, you can email me and I could try to clarify that. But MSCB doesn't have any requirement for you to do anything above and beyond what's this part of the standard core application process that goes through everything. In terms of computer-aided drug discovery, so there are a couple labs at Pitt. Actually, Josh, you probably know better than me, but we have had a few students work at like David Koh's lab at Pitt does drug discovery, and a couple MSCB students have worked. Do you have others?
Yes, there's David Coates lab, and then there's the Drug Discovery Institute. I'm not sure if that's what they're still called over at Pitt. I feel like they changed their name, but a lot of the comp bio training faculty for the PhD program, a non-trivial number of them work in the Drug Discovery Institute. And so there's opportunities for that. In both of these programs, we teach the automation of scientific research, and one of the major problem areas that is driven towards is drug discovery and development, obviously aided by computers. And so we'll definitely give you training in that. And then you can find further experiences through research, and if you're interested. So there are definitely research projects with medical image informatics, and you can get credit or get paid for those. And we also have courses for looking at images. And then on the financial statements, as far as I know, there aren't any financial statement requirements.
So students who are needing a visa do need to submit certain financial documentation for that, and that's the last link that I just put down there in the coming to CMU. You don't need to do that as part of your application. That would be between the time you're admitted and when you arrive here as you're trying to get your visas finalized. I think that might be what was.
That would make sense. So we don't look at financials as part of the admissions process ever.
Yeah. So if you do research at Pitt, you can still earn course credit for that, at least in MSCB, and I assume in MSAS too.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah.
Yeah, so as for this biomedical image analysis projects, actually my lab has a wide range of such a project. We especially welcome students to do these projects for credit, for course credit.
Great. So I think we've reached the end of the time that we slotted. If people have additional questions, you have our email addresses. I guess just since the chat got very busy, I'll put my email address again in there. And if you have any other questions, you can contact us anytime about that. Thanks so much for your time with us, and we look forward to seeing your applications and hearing more from you. Yeah, Josh. You wanna...
Yep, it was great talking to you. Good questions, and hope to see your applications soon.
Thanks, everyone. Have a nice afternoon, morning, whatever time it is for you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.